Last year, my partner and I moved her 84-year-old mom in with us, and cooking became a bit more complicated. She needs soft and low sodium food, and the rest of the family doesn't. So not only did I have to learn how to cook soft and low sodium food, I had to figure out a good way to feed her and the rest of the family with two different needs. When I started to research soft and low sodium food, I couldn't find very many good options. Everything I was finding looked boring and sad and bland, and no. Food is one of the greatest pleasures in the world, and I did not want to deny her that because of her dietary restrictions. So I've made it my mission to come up with really great meals for her. I want her to have variety and actually like the meals that I make her, but also still have them soft, low sodium, Lola friendly. Another goal of mine was to make similar meals to the rest of the family. For breakfast, Lola does her own thing. She has her special breakfast, and that's what she likes to stick to most of the time. For lunch during the school year, it doesn't really matter if she has the same meal. Our daughter's at school, my partner's working. She works from home, but she typically eats in her office because she's very busy. It's just Lola and I during lunch, and she doesn't really mind if it's something different, so I don't worry about it then. But for dinner, it is really nice when we're all sitting down and enjoying a meal together for her to have a very similar meal to everyone else. It just makes her feel good. It makes her feel like she's included, part of the family. So I always like to make sure I have a very similar version for her and then a version for the rest of the family that has more texture, more sodium. Everyone's happy. For the first couple of months, I was very overwhelmed with all of this. I love cooking. I've been cooking for many, many years, not professionally. For the record, not a professional cook, not a dietitian. This is just what works for my family. So this is what I do. So this is what I'm showing people. Make adjustments as needed for you and your loved ones, and do what works for you. After a couple of months, I did figure out a system that really works. However, I cracked the code. I basically started prepping like a chef. So instead of meal prepping, instead of making every single meal from scratch all week long, I prep like a restaurant, like a chef. So I take about 2-3 hours, sometimes only 1 hour if I really cheat and like streamline things, but typically 2 or 3 hours once a week, usually on Sunday. If I don't procrastinate it until Monday, Sunday is definitely the best. And I go shopping, I get all the ingredients we're gonna need for the week. I spend a couple of hours in the kitchen, and I prep ingredients instead of meals. That way I can mix and match the ingredients all week long. I can create a very nice variety of food. We don't have to eat the same food all week like traditional meal prepping, and we get variety, and it's super easy the rest of the week. I just mix and match, throw things together, spend very little time in the kitchen. Everyone's fed, everyone's happy, dietary restrictions are met, we're good to go. So for this video, I'm gonna show you how I prep for the week. I just went shopping, so I'm gonna show you all of that. And then throughout the week, I'm gonna record everything, and I'll show you how I use those ingredients to create meals. Meals for an aging parent that needs to be soft and low sodium, and then meals for the rest of the family. I started my day at the farm stand. I typically love going here every single week. It's cheap, I love supporting local farms, and everything was recently picked, so it's likely to be more nutrient dense. I load up on most of my produce here, and I always get farm fresh eggs. Then I went to Wegmans, one of my favorite local grocery stores. I was able to pick up pretty much everything else I needed for the week. I will have to make one more grocery stop on the way home. And then my partner actually got Lola out of the house. Luckily, I brought a cooler with ice packs, so I'm gonna pit stop for some lunch with them. When you're eating out with a senior who needs soft and low sodium food, it's not always easy. But if you pick the right restaurant and then you tweak some meals a little bit, you're able to order a really delicious low sodium and soft meal. We stopped at a Japanese restaurant. For the appetizers, they unfortunately were not low sodium, but they were soft enough. We got shumai and crab rangoon, and Lola was able to eat both of them. We were able to order her a noodle dish and customize it so it was very soft and very low in sodium, but it was super flavorful. I made one more stop before I got home at our local Asian market to pick up a couple of specialty items that I wasn't able to find in the grocery store. Finally made it home, got a lot of stuff, have everything I need for the week, I think. If I didn't, I'll just run back and get it throughout the week. Brought in all the groceries, did it in 2 trips. Does anybody else challenge themselves to see how little trips they can take and bring all their groceries in? I think it started when I lived in an apartment building that was on the 2nd and 3rd floor. I got used to doing that, and now it's just a personal game I play. I don't think it's necessary, but 2 trips, I'm impressed with myself. I'm gonna organize myself, figure out what I'm doing first. I already made a list to somewhat organize myself, so we'll try to stick to that, and I'll show you what I do. So there's quite a lot here. When you eat 3 meals a day at home, it does, I don't know, it just accumulates to being quite a good amount of food, I would say, especially when you're having more like, you know, lots of fresh fruits, vegetables. It's lower calorie density, so you eat more of that, I feel like. Crab cake. This is a splurge, but Lola loves it. It's her absolute favorite food, so I make it once a week typically for her. I get the 2, and my daughter is not here today, so I'm just gonna divide the 2 into 3 servings to save on money a little bit. I do that often. I'll just break it up a little bit so we're still getting it. We don't need a huge one anyways. There is more sodium in this. Again, it's just a splurge, a once a week thing for Lola. So life is short. I think she should get crab cake. And then way more budget friendly, we have our frozen fish, wild caught, flounder. And then I always go for the family versions if I can. Family, you always get a better discount on. We probably won't eat all of that fish this week too, so I'll have it for next week, which is nice. And at Wegmans where I go to, actually even some of their fresh stuff you can get at a family discount if you get more than 2 pounds. So always look for that at your grocery store. And then we have chicken. This is a vegan chicken. We were actually vegan for a long time, vegetarian, and so old habits die hard. We just like this stuff. This is just a little special something for my daughter's lunches that'll make her happy, and maybe for my partner and I. Not for Lola. We just stick with regular chicken for her, mostly because of just the sodium content is higher. Our protein: eggs from the farmer's market. Beans, we're gonna do some from scratch. Unfortunately, I can't cook these today because you do need to soak beans. I'm gonna soak them overnight, and that's just gonna have to wait for tomorrow, but it's worth it. It's so much cheaper to buy dried beans rather than canned beans. I did get canned beans too, over here. But I do both. So it just depends on like what I'm making and everything. If you look at the prices though, there's really no comparison. So if you have time to make it from scratch, financially makes sense. Plus they just taste better. The texture is better. You can make them softer. You can also make sure that there's no sodium in them. You really have to look out for canned beans and sodium levels. They do have no salt added ones, luckily. Not in all of the varieties, however. So you just have to flip it over, look at it. There's a lot of hidden sodium in canned beans, so just be careful if it's a problem for you. Tofu. 2 things of tofu. We like tofu. Cheap, soft, easy protein, a million ways to make it. If you don't think you like tofu, maybe you just didn't have it made right, and maybe you did and you just don't like tofu. It's not for everybody, but we appreciate it here. It's cheap, it's soft. We like the flavor of it if you cook it the right way. And then for our meat this week, we did free-range organic chicken thighs, boneless, skinless, and I'm gonna try a new process this week with this. It's called velveting, and it's from Asian restaurants I'm stealing it from. I did a lot of research on it during this week, and there's different ways to do it. I found a way that I want to try, and we'll see how that is. That's why when you go to like Chinese restaurants, their chicken is so much softer. It's because they velvet their chicken. So I think that would be nice for Lola if chicken's even easier for her to eat. So we'll see how that goes. Our diet mostly is just plant-based stuff for the most part. Like the chicken is pretty much the only meat we're gonna eat this week, and it's actually pretty large, so we might not even eat all that. We'll see how that goes. Everybody's different. This works for us. If you want more meat, just add more meat to what I'm doing. If you want it vegetarian, luckily there's like a lot of options available, so you can do that. All right, and then we have our veggies, fruits, berries. Lola can't eat these berries anymore, so that's for the family. She can still, strawberries are still cool. They're still on the list. So fruit, you just always have to adjust with your elder loved ones and see what works. Blueberries used to work. Now she's not into blueberries anymore, so I just don't serve them anymore. Avocados, not ripe. We're gonna put those in the window to ripen. Thai basil, that's actually from the Asian market. Shishito peppers, I'm gonna marinate those. I'll show you, it's a good idea. All the stuff. I was really craving roasted grapefruit juice, so we're gonna make that happen. And that's a really good cocktail, so I'll show you how to do that. pears from our local farm stand. So our produce, I try to get as much as possible local, and then what I can't get from there, I just fill in the blanks. It's just a good idea to support local, support your small farms, and then also it's cheaper usually, and it was just picked. So you're gonna have the nutrients are gonna be super fresh, really nice. So that's why I always go there first. So I'll take that out. I'll show you what I do with it. Snacks. So coffee, that's Mama's snack. And then from the Asian grocery store, we love these. Chocolate, dark chocolate, always a good idea. Oh, they're home. Hi. Hi. So snacks. This is one of Lola's favorite snacks. It is dried fruit. We had to try a couple different brands, and this one was the best for her. She just says it's softer and easier to chew. So this is really nice. She'll just snack on them, or I put them usually on her frozen yogurt for dessert to add texture. These are also wonderful. So you can find these, at least in my store, in the gluten-free section. A lot of good snacks actually in the gluten-free section, even if you're not gluten-free. They tend to be a little bit like more simple as far as the ingredients go, and a lot of them are just softer. So that's where I find a lot of her snacks. Lots of different options. Again, great snack, or you can put it on frozen yogurt. This is why I had to stop at the Asian market. My daughter really wanted these. She saw them on, I think, TikTok or something, so that's what we did. And then spicy, these are not for Lola, these are for the rest of the family. All right, and then we are obsessed also, Asian market, with these. They're a little sweet, so we actually have those as a dessert. Breadcrumbs, this is actually gonna go in a crunchy thing that I make to add texture to our meals. So I'll show you that. And then we have pumpkin seeds also going in the little crunchy thing. Raw cashew, I'm gonna make a dressing out of this. So I'll show you how to do that. It's just a really nice, healthy way to make a dressing. So we have grains. Grains are here. So this brand is really good. It's a protein pasta and comes in all different shapes. It's one of our go-tos. It has 10 grams of protein per serving. So it's nice, and it actually gets soft. Like the texture is not funky on it at all, which is good. We also have steel cut oats, which is how Lola starts every single morning with her steel cut oats. Pretty much. We went with brown rice. We do white rice too, but we do try to do brown rice and really switch up our grains as much as possible. Variety. 2 different types of bread. I'm gonna make French toast out of this raisin bread because yes. And then a whole grain bread with nuts with some seeds in it. That's it's okay to get seed one for us because Lola actually doesn't eat it. Different types of wraps. Vehicles throughout the week for our food, butter, unsalted, cottage cheese, and actually you can find a no salted one. You have to be careful with cottage cheese because there is a decent amount of salt in it. I think it was like 15% of your daily value in most of the brands. So, but they do make options without salt. Different types of cheeses, a little cheese, that'll probably last us more than this week. We don't eat too much cheese. This is going to be used for a couple of things. One, we do breakfast, Lola's breakfast with it, and then I'm actually going to make a fun dessert with cottage cheese and yogurt, and it'll be high fiber. So that's something that I do. I try to make desserts, add more fiber and protein and nutrients to them, so it's still dessert, still tastes good, but it's much healthier. Tomato paste, canned tomatoes. Again, you always have to watch your sodium when you're getting tomato paste and canned tomatoes because even if there's not a lot in it, if you're making it as only one ingredient, it honestly, it can just really add up. So this is just ways to cut corners on sodium. No salt added, tomato paste. And then this one isn't a no salt added, but the sodium is really low in this. So just flip over your cans when you're at the grocery store. Make sure you know what you're buying. No salt added chickpeas. I'll be using those in a couple different ways. I'll show you how to make these. I make these crispy and then soft, so everybody's happy. 2 different ways. Mustard seed, I'm actually not going to use that, I don't think, in any recipe this week, but I just ran out. Truffle salt. So this is something that's kind of nice. Since we cook low sodium, but the rest of the family doesn't need really low sodium. I mean, going lower in sodium is just a good idea for everybody, but we still like sodium a little bit. So something I do is I get special salts and then I just sprinkle it over top at the end. So when salt is on your food instead of in it, you can actually taste it more because it's more surface level, I guess. I don't know the science behind it. You'll have to look that up. And it's fun to just get truffle salt or flavored ones. They're a little bit more expensive, but if you're just using them as a little sprinkle on top, it actually lasts a while and it makes your food that much more special. No sodium with flavor is, we rely on this guy, Herb OX. So, sodium free, lots of flavor. It works to build flavor. I'm gonna make broth, but I always buy a backup of broth since we always make Lola's meals brothy. It's easier for her to chew. So just in case I run out or in case it takes me a little bit to make the broth, I just always make sure I have it in house. These are just obviously staples. Jelly, nothing really. Oh, fish sauce. We use a lot of fish sauce. It is salty, so we just use a little bit in meals, but we really like that flavor. Lola is Filipino, which is prominent in Filipino food, so we always have that. I'm new on YouTube, especially with long form, but I've had a couple of videos before this. Those videos, I didn't really have recipes or anything. I was just showing my process. So for this video, I'm gonna step it up for you as promised. I'm gonna actually have recipes this time. So we have that going for us this week. Sorry it took so long. I'm not somebody that normally cooks with recipes or measurements or anything like that. I usually just bring things up to flavor. So this is a big step for me, guys. Hopefully it's helpful. So when I meal prep, I usually have a plan in mind. I think about the things that are gonna take the longest, and then I start there, and then I work my way down to the easiest things, and then the things that are just like icing on the cake, sauces, desserts, I put at the end in case I run out of time or motivation. Not a big deal if I make those. So that's usually my game plan. Most important, least important, longest, shortest. As usual, if I'm making a broth, I start with a broth. So we'll start there. Normally, I would also start with dried beans if I was making them, but I bought these today and they do have to soak overnight, so I'm gonna make those tomorrow instead. Then I'll soak things like cashews because they need to be soaked and sitting, and then I'm gonna move on to the roasted vegetables. So that's the first part of the party. So as I said, the first thing I'm gonna start off with is the broth. To make a broth every week, I just save veggie scraps and chicken bones from last week. It's ingredients that you would just throw out anyways because they're just scraps, but I actually just reuse them, put them in a broth, and bring new life to it. It's just a really smart way to use them if you have the time to do it. And this type of broth just tastes a lot better than the store-bought stuff, of course. Everything homemade does. So I just take out my chicken that's been frozen for the week, and then I also take out my frozen veggie scraps. I'm gonna add things like bay leaf, garlic, onion, and filtered water to it. I'm gonna bring it to a boil, down to a simmer, and then I'm just gonna let it cook while I'm prepping. If I feel like I want it to cook longer than it takes me to prep, I just leave it on while I do other things around the house. Broth is a major part of our week. I realize that it's so much easier for Lola to chew her food and eat it, and so much more pleasurable if there's a broth in it. So I always have broth on hand. I either make it or I buy it. You can buy some pretty good broths. There's some good ones out there now. Farmers markets are great. A lot of times you can get containers of bone broths, chicken stocks, so that's where I would start. Also at the grocery store, not all broths are created equally. If you are sensitive to salt, you really want to check the labels. Go with low sodium, go with no sodium, but also bone broth is really great. It is higher in protein, higher in nutrients, and a lot of them actually are pretty low in sodium. Again, just flip them over, make sure you know what you're buying. But if you can make it at home, make it at home. It's cheaper, it's better, and then there's no salt at all, but lots of flavor. So now we're turning on the rice. Brown rice this week, which takes longer to cook, so I'm gonna put that on now. Always make sure that you wash your rice, of course. I did that, so it's good to go. Next, I'm gonna soak the cashews. I put some water on to get hot for it, and then raw cashews, you don't want to do roasted if you're making a dressing or something out of it. This is going to get soft and blend so much better. So this is one of the ways that I make dressings. Cashews are great for you. Lots of protein, lots of nutrients. We love cashews. They are too hard for Lola to chew, so I do blend them and make them into purees and stuff sometimes to add to meals, but then also I mostly use them for dressings, sauces, for the rest of the family when we're having salads, when Lola's having soup. So I'll show you how to do that. Lola was quietly watching church before. If you have an elder parent that likes to go to church, It is nice that it's on YouTube now. She appreciates that. We do bring her to church sometimes, but typically she just likes to sit home on the couch, go to church from there. YouTube, just a little tip. But now that's over, and now she's watching Seinfeld. So if you hear laughing in the background, which you will, it's just Lola having a good time hanging out with Seinfeld. I always make a variety of vegetables every week. Before I was steaming big batches of vegetables for Lola so they were super soft, but I just started roasting them last week. I realized that if you cover them with tin foil, let them cook for longer, that you can get them soft without getting them crispy on the edges at all. It does take longer, but it's in the background, and that's what today is for. And that's what ingredient prepping is. Oh wait. And that's what ingredient prepping is for. So it's gonna roast in the background. It's worth it. It just has more flavor than steaming, I realized. Steaming is still a great option, and I definitely will still do that. But when I have the time and it makes sense, I'm definitely gonna roast vegetables from here on out. So we learned that. Always learning new things. So I have a variety of vegetables, most of which I did get from the farmer's market. And then I'm just gonna keep on talking over it. You can hear both. So I'm gonna roast some veggies, nice and soft for Lola, like mushy vegetables. And then I'm gonna roast some vegetables for the rest of the family that aren't quite as textured. We also eat a lot of raw vegetables, and then we also eat a lot of vegetables that I cook in the air fryer. The air fryer is just a wonderful way to quickly, easily cook vegetables. So you'll see some of that this week as well. I'm also gonna roast vegetables for a soup. I'm going to do a roasted purple cauliflower soup. I thought that might be kind of fun. I guess we'll see how it turns out, how the color turns out. I'm also gonna roast some chickpeas. You can get them nice and crunchy, which is just really nice to add to things for the week. And then Lola's chickpeas, I'm actually gonna cook on the stove for longer to make them super soft. So I'll show you that later though. And then I'm also gonna roast some potatoes. It's really nice just to roast potatoes all at once. Again, you can just easily add them to meals for the rest of the week. Trust me guys, prep like a chef. It just makes sense. I'm starting with the ingredients for the roasted cauliflower soup. Purple cauliflower that I found at the farmer's market. I'm gonna wash that, chop it up. 2 shallots, cut up a little bit. We have our roasted garlic. So to roast garlic, you take off the head, you pull away some of the excess stuff. I don't know if that's called the head. I just made that up. It might be. You take that and then you cut it off. You put it on some tin foil. This one did not stay together. You know, it's organic, farmer's market stuff. And then just sprinkle on some olive oil, spread it on. Salt and pepper would be really nice here too, but like I said, we don't do a lot of salt. So just wrap her up and she's gonna join the party. Let's oil these babies. Olive oil, salt and pepper would be really lovely again, but we can't have the pepper, and the salt is a no-go too. So this is what it is. Make sure it's nicely coated. Moving on, chopping some broccoli to roast for Lola. Again, I save all of my scraps going in. This is gonna be next week's stock. The circle of life around here. Peel and chop some carrots. Veggie scraps go in my stock bag. I'm doing 3 carrots. When you're chopping vegetables to roast, you want to try to get them around the same size. That way they cook somewhat evenly. Obviously, you can't always do it perfectly, but the closer the better. Olive oil, no salt and pepper again. And then like I said before, I'm gonna put tin foil over top. That helps the heat stay in better. It makes it cook faster, I feel like. It makes it softer. And then you don't get all the crispy brown edges. So perfect for Lola. And then I peeled and chopped some sweet potatoes, also going to be roasted, and some regular potatoes. I went with red potatoes. I found them both at the farmer's market today. So I do need to peel all of my potatoes. Potato skin is just too difficult for Lola to chew. So everything gets peeled. If I know I'm gonna keep things separate for the family, I'll leave the skin on, but a lot of times I don't like to play that game. So I just peel them. If you don't want these to go to waste, again, these can go back into the stock as everything else does. But also if you toss these in oil and then air fry them, they're nice little chips. So you have options. Toss them in oil. Again, no salt, no pepper. Our stock is still cooking down. I'm gonna prep some pasta for the week. Moving on to tofu. I'm just gonna cut these open and drain them out. I'm using 2 different blocks, and I'm using 2 different methods for cooking them. One is gonna be for the rest of the family, and then one is gonna be for Lola. The tofu for the family is gonna be nice and crispy. So in order to do this is some tricks. I soak it in water with salt. Water so it's covering it, and then I do a teaspoon of salt. This might seem counterproductive when you're trying to dry out the tofu, but it actually works. It's science, guys. Basically, when the salt water is in here, it's gonna pull, the water that's in the tofu is gonna come into the water bath. I don't know, look it up. That wasn't a great explanation, but that's all I have for you. So this is gonna soak for about 20 minutes. And then Lola's version, I'm actually gonna press hers because obviously for the 100th time, she can't have salt. Or she can have salt, just not too much salt. So if you don't have a tofu press, we eat a lot of tofu, so it makes sense for us to just have one. You can just wrap it in a dishcloth and then press it under heavy books, and that's all you need to do. But this just made sense for us. And just let it sit 20 minutes, we'll come back. Forgot what I was going to tell you. So I don't like to meal prep. I don't like to eat the same meal day after day. The rest of the family doesn't like that. It really works for some people. It does not work for us. So like I said, we ingredient prep. But what I do is I do make versatile meals almost, or sauces. It's a sauce. So what I do is I make a versatile sauces. So I'm gonna show you how to make a tomato sauce that I make with canned tomatoes. Obviously fresher better, but we're not gonna be a hero about this. This is gonna taste great too. And I'm gonna be able to use it in multiple meals throughout the week in different ways. So stay tuned to see that as well. So let's get started. We're gonna put the pasta in first. I only went with half a box pasta because I don't like to freeze pasta. It just makes it a funny texture. I freeze other things like rices, potatoes, not pasta. So half a box. For the sauce, we have shallots. 2 shallots, you can use onion instead, garlic, 4 or 5 cloves. Some people are very sensitive to garlic. If you're one of those people, if you're cooking for one of those people, don't use it. Olives do have salt in them, but it adds a lot of flavor to the sauce. You can omit those if you need to. I'm not gonna actually give the olives to Lola to eat. It's just gonna help flavor the sauce, and then we're gonna eat them. Stock, a cup of stock that I stole from the stock that's cooking. Our seasoning, garlic powder, onion powder, smoked paprika, a teaspoon of each. Since we're not using very much salt, we want to build flavor in other ways, and this is how we do it. Bay leaf, and then for more flavor, no salt chicken seasoning. This adds a lot of flavor with no salt, so it's just nice to have. Totally optional, but it makes a difference. And then parsley as well, just a nice big bundle that I'm gonna put in there. It's gonna flavor it. I'm not even taking the stems off because I'm gonna end up pulling it out. I hope I'm not setting myself up for more work, but we'll see. And then I have the 2 cans of tomatoes peeled. I'm just gonna crush them with my hands, and then the no salt tomato paste. The pasta was ready, so I drained it. A little trick that I do is to make sure it doesn't clump together since I'm saving it. Spread it out, and then I toss it in some olive oil. That keeps it from clumping together when you're storing it in the fridge. I also do save my pasta water. It does make a difference when you add it to sauces, and again, since I'm cooking ahead of time, I just wanna make sure I have that for meals during the week. The cauliflower and the potatoes are ready at the same time, so I took those out. I moved the garlic over with the other vegetables to all cook longer, so those are all still in the oven. So like I said before, this is all an experiment. I was roasting the vegetables. I've actually been steaming them all year, as I mentioned earlier, and I did notice they were starting to crisp up, so that's a work in progress. So what I did was I just pulled them, and I'm steaming them to finish them off. I don't want them to be all crispy for Lola, but I do need them to be nice and soft. So I don't know why. It did work last week. I had the oven at the same temperature, so I'm not really sure what's happening there, if my oven's on the fritz or I don't know. So still working on it. I'm guessing I'm just gonna have to do lower temperature, maybe 375 or 400 for that, and just like low and slow. I'll experiment again with that next week, so we'll figure it out together. Pan over medium heat with some olive oil, about a tablespoon or 2. Sorry, I didn't measure that one. I'm still getting used to it. Our shallots. Saute for a couple of minutes until they become translucent. Adding the garlic. Cook for another minute or 2. You do not want your garlic to burn. Add the seasoning. Toast up for 30 seconds or so. Adding the stock. To deglaze the pan, I believe you call that. Maybe. Canned crushed tomatoes. Olives. Bay leaf. Tomato paste. I should have actually cooked the tomato paste first before I put in the liquid. That would have been smarter. If you do that, it actually helps build flavor. So do that, guys. Tomato paste before you put in the liquid. Packet of no salt seasoning. Parsley. That's just gonna help build flavor. Again, you need to find other ways to build flavor when you're not using a lot of salt. We're gonna stir this all in. We're gonna cover, put some medium low, and let it cook. I'm also adding a cup of dry white wine to the sauce. You don't have to do it, I just like it. Baby, you want wine? I took out the first tofu. As you can see, there's lots of water that it removes. When you remove water from tofu, it helps it absorb the other flavors that you're gonna cook it in, so it's worth doing, plus the texture is better. I took the other one out of the salt bath. I'm gonna press that one too. Another 20 minutes. Again, this is just all happening in the background, so it's worth the time. The other veggies are out of the oven, so I'm gonna utilize the oven for another round of veggies. I'm making roasted cabbage as well. This isn't gonna be for Lola, it'll be for the rest of the family. It's just olive oil and I'm putting some smoked sea salt on it. Okay, so it was daylight savings. I've lost light in here. It honestly looks a lot nicer when I'm recording things when it's daylight out. That plus it's getting a little bit later. So I think I'm gonna stop for tonight. That's the nice thing when you move in increments from most important to least important and in phases, you can kind of just stop what you're doing. So I'm just gonna package things up. I'll see you tomorrow and we'll finish prepping. Also, that's what's nice about doing this on Sunday. You can kind of break it up if you want to. But we accomplished a lot. We have our broth that's still simmering. I'm still gonna let that simmer in the background. And then I'm just gonna end up draining out all the bones, all the veggies, and keeping the broth. Sauce is looking good. It's been simmering. It just has a little bit longer. We have our cabbage and second round in there. And then we have our noodles, our cauliflower, potatoes, rice. Like I said, a lot has been accomplished. And we're also working on dinner for tonight, crab cake. I like crab cakes because I don't make them myself. They just go on a tray, go in the air fryer. I'm gonna put some of these veggies with it, potatoes, a little bit of broth I'm gonna steal from there. For my partner and I, my daughter's at family's. The crab cake, I stole some roasted cauliflower that I'm gonna use for the soup, just a little bit. Some sauerkraut, and then the potatoes. Super simple, it's gonna taste good, very easy. I threw it together super quickly since I already did a lot of the work. So I'll see you tomorrow. Good morning, new day. Let's finish up our prep work. I soaked the beans overnight. We're gonna drain them, rinse them, put them in a big pot of water, and then we're gonna cook them. If you're gonna cook beans from scratch, you might as well put a little extra flavor in there. So I'm gonna add garlic, onion, bay leaf, pretty much it. Some people do add salt. I believe there's controversy around salt, that it makes your beans more tender or less tender, but it doesn't matter for us. We're not gonna add salt because no sodium. So when I cook my beans, I bring them to a boil. I skim all the foam off of the top if there's any foam, and then I bring it down to just a little bit over a simmer, so it's barely bubbling, cooking for about 40 minutes. We're gonna take care of a bunch of protein right now. We have the beans cooking on there, the white soaked beans. We have our chickpeas. I'm gonna cook these 2 ways. I'm gonna make these crispy in the oven for the rest of the family to add to things. And the other can of chickpeas for Lola, I'm gonna make even softer by cooking them on the stovetop with a little bit of baking soda. I'll show you how to do that. Tofu, cooked 2 ways. Lola's version is gonna be not so crispy, just cooked on the stovetop. I think I'm gonna use a flat top for that. And then ours, which is still pressed from yesterday since we took a break, is gonna be made extra crispy. 2 different versions, everyone's happy. And then we're gonna velvet the chicken. I have about 1.5 pounds of chicken thighs. I already cut them up into small pieces, washed them, and then we're gonna put a little slurry on that. I don't know if the word is slurry, but that's what I'm gonna call it. And we're gonna let that soak, and then we're going to boil that up to try this velveting technique to make the chicken extra soft. We'll see how it goes. All right, water's boiling. Chickpeas drained and rinsed. And the no salt added version of the canned chickpeas. Make sure you get that if you're sensitive. And then a teaspoon of baking soda. Ooh, okay. And then this just boils, we'll bring to a boil and then down to like medium heat for 20 minutes and it makes it softer. Super simple. Okay, we have our chickpeas, again, canned, no salt added. Not that it matters for us, but I just get in the habit of buying that. And then I'm just gonna spin these dry. As soon as I figure this out, there we go. I'm gonna pat them dry as well. Basically, you're getting rid of the water because we're gonna put oil on them, and then it's gonna make it more crisp if they're dry. Wet water is the enemy of crispiness. Add about a tablespoon of olive oil, and then whatever seasoning you want. I'm just gonna put a little bit of smoked salt on this. Like I said, I like to use some fancier salts just to give a little extra pizzazz to the dishes. Any type of salt would work. You can put any type of dried herbs on it. I'm just gonna keep a neutral flavor with, I think, just a little bit of salt, garlic powder, onion powder, and paprika. Just a pinch of salt, less than 1/8 of a teaspoon, 1/8 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/8 teaspoon of onion powder, and 1/8 teaspoon of smoked paprika. Place in the oven, 425 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20-25 minutes or until they're crispy. Okay, time to velvet the chicken. We're gonna do 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and I know salt, but it's not very much, and from what I understand, this is very important to the process, so we can't skip that. So we're gonna put the salt in, we're gonna put 1/4 cup of water, and then we're gonna mix this up and let it absorb in. Again, I just researched this, and we're gonna see how it goes. So this should be absorbing into the chicken. Okay, so I moved that around for about a minute, washed my hands, does seem to have absorbed. And then we're gonna do 1.5 tablespoons of cornstarch, and then 1.5 tablespoons of a neutral oil. Maybe I should have used sesame oil for this, but we're going with olive oil. I don't know if olive oil is a neutral oil, but it is today. All right, and then just mix that up as well. So this is basically gonna coat it and soften it. The oil, from my understanding, is to get the pieces also like not to stick together when you are cooking and boiling them. Once you cover the chicken in the coating, you let it sit for about 15 minutes. And then there's a couple of different ways you could do your next step. You could boil it, which is what I'm gonna do. You could also cook it in a wok, or you could deep fry it. There's a couple different sources online of how to do that. I'm just gonna boil it because the goal is to not make it crispy. So that makes sense for us. I'm gonna let this sit for 15 minutes. The chickpeas are almost ready to be drained out of their water, and then let's move on to the tofu. So the chickpeas came out super, super soft. So that is a good technique if you are going to do hummus with canned chickpeas to make it softer, to make your hummus creamier. But like I said, I'm just trying to find different ways to soften things up for her. Canned chickpeas are doable for her, but probably not like the most comfortable right out of the can. So this is a great technique. It didn't take long. Honestly, I probably only needed, for her level of softness, just need to toss them in for about 5 minutes. Adjust for your elder loved one as needed. If you want them super soft, go for more like 10-20 minutes on this. And it actually doesn't affect the flavor at all. Drain them and then rinse them. Good to go. Super soft canned chickpeas. The roasted chickpeas were also ready, and they turned out really crispy. For the family's tofu, I ripped it up into chunks. I covered it with 1 tablespoon of olive oil and 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. Then I air fried it at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes. Flip halfway. This made it super crispy. For Lola's tofu, I just sliced it and threw it on the flat top. Back over to the chicken. I brought the pot of water up to a boil, and then I brought it down to medium heat. Now I'm adding the chicken in slowly. I'm only working with half a batch first. Then you just want to gently separate the chicken. So you want the chicken to only cook about 80% of the way through. You could finish it off in the water technically, but it's gonna give it more flavor if you just finish it off in a pan, or I'm gonna do it on the flat top. Now I'm moving on to some egg cups. These are fast and easy to make. We eat them at breakfast, and then I also add them to lunch sometimes. I'm making a version mostly for the rest of the family, and I'm gonna put kale in it, but I am gonna make 3 of them for Lola using her soft roasted broccoli. I start with 1 cup of low sodium cottage cheese, and I blend it until super smooth. Then I add 8 eggs, a tablespoon of smoked paprika, a tablespoon of garlic powder, and a tablespoon of onion powder. Blend again until evenly combined. I'm evenly pouring it into each cup. This recipe is gonna make a dozen. Bake at 350 degrees for about 25 minutes. And then I throw together a fast peanut sauce. This is just a dump everything in the food processor situation. The recipe is in the description. And then I made a neutral flavored cashew cream using the cashews that I had soaked. I'm gonna use this as a base for sauces and dressings throughout the week. I ended up putting it in the blender to get it super smooth. Next, I made my crunchies. I make these often. They are an easy way to add more texture to a meal. I just blend together different seeds, I add panko crumbs, sometimes seasoning, and then I crisp it up on the pan with a little bit of olive oil, and then you can store it in the fridge for about 2, probably even 3 weeks. I just sprinkle it over dishes to add flavor and crunch. And then I roasted some grapefruit. Not necessary at all. I was just craving roasted grapefruit juice, and then I made a rosemary simple to go with it. Again, just icing on the cake to make the week more special. So let's talk about what we made. So today was protein veggie day, obviously. So we have the tofu for Lola, and then the crunchy tofu for the rest of the family. Chickpeas, this was the new technique that I did. Chickpeas, I did the boiling techniques to make these super soft for Lola, and then crunchy chickpeas for the rest of the family. Chicken, like I said before, this actually worked out really well, the technique, and then I did finish it off on the stove top to just make sure it was cooked all the way through. Part of the reason I do this is so I do know that things are actually cooked, and I can kind of just toss them in the bowl, throw them in the microwave. So that's what I did there. Beans, like I said, half of these babies are going in the freezer. All of our egg cups are over here, the couple for Lola with the soft veggies and kale for everyone else. So I did do these just a neutral flavor. I didn't even put cheese in it. So sometimes we do a rice and egg situation, so I didn't want cheese in there. I'll put cheese on it if I want it. Veggies, we just eat a lot more greens if I actually prep them ahead of time. Otherwise, my kale sits in the fridge. So just a little bit of olive oil and lemon juice on fresh kale, massaged it so that's ready to go. Raw cabbage, again, lemon juice, olive oil, and raw Brussels sprouts. That way I could just easily toss them in the air fryer throughout the week. Lemon juice, olive oil, broken record. And then this is shishito peppers. We really like these, and it takes 2 seconds to make. Just raw shishito peppers, fish sauce, mirin, soy sauce, toasted sesame oil, rice vinegar. And that's it. You just mix it together. I let them marinate. I pop these in the air fryer throughout the week, and they're really lovely. And then we have our dressings. So peanut dressing, super creamy, not too salty, a little salty, so you can adjust that if you have to do no salt. Lola might have some of that, but not a lot of it. And then very neutral cashew cream. That I will add to things throughout the week. So it's just a base of a dressing started, neutral flavor, so then I can change it up as I go. Okay, prep is done. Singing in the background is Lola. She's doing her puzzle, has headphones on, so you might just hear that as I'm talking. I did a lot this week. I can't tell you how long it would have taken me had I done it straight through, because I had to talk to the camera, move the camera. I stopped a little bit. I am caregiving as I'm recording this and doing this and prepping, so I have to stop, feed her breakfast, feed her lunch, set up her games. I'm gonna guess 3 hours if I went straight through, And after I had done it for a while, at first you might feel overwhelmed doing it. It took me a couple of weeks, I'm gonna say like a month, to actually like really get a hold of it, to know, okay, I need to start this first, then this, then this, then this, and just get good at multitasking. That's like part of the game here, is you're doing a couple things at once, and you do get better at it quickly. So don't get frustrated if it feels overwhelming at first, and give yourself more than enough time the first couple of times that you do it, if you choose to prep this way. But now that I did put about 3 hours, if I had to add it up, at the beginning of the week, I'm gonna be like smooth sailing for the rest of the week. I will spend some time in the kitchen, but significantly less. I also really love like textures, flavors. We like to eat well, so we have a good amount of variety. I did extra things like roast grapefruit and make rosemary syrup. That's not necessary for everyone. I've just been doing this for a while. We really love food, and I just like to make it really special at home, since we don't really go out much and we're kind of just homebound since we are caregivers. Actually, after a while, it really saves you a lot of money, and you do just start to kind of crave your own cooking because you're using healthier ingredients, less sugars, less fats, less oils, and you do learn over time how to become a pretty decent cook and flavor developer, that it makes a difference, and it saves you money, and it honestly makes it not nearly as necessary to eat out and just very satisfying to eat at home. So maybe not everyone will get there, but that's how we feel about the situation. So this week I wasn't trying to cut costs or anything like that. I kind of just did it straight up, eating what we wanted, a variety of food, a variety of protein. Started at the farmer's market, and then I went over to Wegmans grocery store, last little stop at the Asian market. So no trying to cut corners, costs, or anything. We typically, as a family of 4, spend about $300, I would say, on groceries, give or take. To eat well, to eat 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, pretty much, with the exception of 1 meal a week, we'll eat out. And Lola eats in almost every single meal. She'll eat out like once a month. We're actually getting her out more, which is really good. But that took a while to do. So the rest of the week, I'm gonna throw meals together. I'm gonna show you how I do them a bit. The recipes for everything that I did today are gonna be in the description. These recipes are good. They're not like completely fine-tuned or anything. Just again, baby stepping the situation here. We're at least measuring things now. So yeah, so just adjust as needed. And again, we typically go low sodium on things. So if you need more flavor, bolder flavors, obviously just adjust as needed. Another thing that I do, and I did this time, is I do make more than I need. And I made the beans, I made the entire bag because I'm gonna soak them, cook them anyways. And then I'm just gonna freeze half of them. The chicken was a good amount for us because, like I said before, we eat a variety of protein, not just like meat for every meal. So I'm gonna actually freeze half of the chicken. The chicken was way more tender with the velveting technique. So actually moving forward, I'll probably end up doing that a lot. She's still okay with roasted chicken and stuff because she doesn't need things overly like insanely soft yet. That time will come. But honestly, I feel like this is just gonna make her more comfortable to chew. So I will probably do this moving forward for most of the things. The only bummer is I like to cook chicken with bones in it because then I can reuse the bones for broths and stuff. So I'll have to think about that. Maybe I'll just get bones from the market to just be my broth bones. We'll stay tuned on that one, I guess. So since Lola does need things super soft, and I try to make things together, one of my tricks is just creating a couple of different things with texture to add to things. So that's why I have the crunchy stovetop crunchies that I made, for lack of a better name for them. That's why I made our tofu nice and crunchy. That's why we have the raw vegetables cut up nice and crunchy. Just little things like that that you can just easily toss on a meal can make all the difference, so you don't feel like you're just eating mushy food, or you don't feel like you have to make a completely different meal all the time just to get some texture. Yesterday we made the sauce. I'm gonna use that a couple different ways this week. It was a super simple sauce. Again, recipes in the description. It's just very basic, neutral flavor, low sodium. So I'll mix that up throughout the week. And again, very basic. If you want more flavor, add more flavor. It's just a base. We did the broth that was simmering for hours, just drained it, jarred it. I have a lot of that, so I always freeze part of my broth. That way I just pull it out later that week or next week if it makes it to them, which it normally doesn't.
I made Lola a quick lunch using her leftover noodles from yesterday, soft steamed vegetables, and the broth, with a little bit of toasted sesame oil. So this is a salad that I made from all of this. It's just rice, chickpeas, kale, the peanut dressing, the crunchies, the chickpeas, super simple, threw it together in literally 30 seconds. Made one for my partner too. As you can see, you put in the work up front and then life is simple after that. The fridge is full and ready to go.
It's Monday night, it's time to make dinner. I'm gonna do it super fast, super easy, low maintenance, as most of the meals will be since I already prepped. We're gonna do an Asian-inspired chicken rice soup. Super simple, it'll be really good, really nice. It's getting cold tonight. Let me show you what I'm gonna use for that. We're gonna do the chicken that we made earlier, of course. I'm gonna put some white beans in it for extra protein. The rice, and then this is why we slow cooked broth. It is all tasty, wonderful. Took hours to simmer, and all I have to do is throw it in a pot and add flavor to it today. What I'm gonna add flavor and make an Asian-inspired flavor is gonna be dried mushrooms, bay leaf, Thai basils, ginger, and some scallions as well. And then the only difference really that's gonna be between our soups is gonna be Lola's gonna get vegetables that are soft cooked, and I'm just gonna air fry these for the rest of the family and add them to the soup. We're gonna put all of that in the broth. For extra flavor, I'm adding mirin. That was about 1-2 tablespoons, and a little bit of rice vinegar. Also garlic, always garlic around here. I'm gonna bring this to a boil and then down to a simmer, and I'm gonna let it cook for about 20 minutes to build the flavor. I'm worried it's not gonna be brothy enough, so I'm gonna add another half jar. So this has been simmering for almost about 20 minutes now. I'm going to pull out all the chunks and stuff like that because we don't want to eat that. I'm gonna pull out the mushrooms. We actually will eat the mushrooms, but I'm gonna chop them up first. Now I'm gonna add in the beans. The rice. I'm gonna chop up the chicken first and then add that as well. Chopped up my Thai basil, chopped up my scallions, that'll go on top. Chicken. Even though this was done with the velveting technique, you still wanna cut up your meat very small. That way it's easy to chew when you're serving an elder. Even though this had to cook for 20 minutes, it was just a totally hands-off experience. I was able to put away the dishes, organize the kitchen, actually do things instead of cooking because most of my cooking has already been done. I'm just babysitting, really. And the chicken. Since everything's cooked, it just needs to be heated up. I'm finishing it off with about a teaspoon of toasted sesame oil and just like a teaspoon of low sodium soy sauce, not too much. Soy sauce, even low sodium soy sauce, is still very salty, so I only put in about maybe a teaspoon, and then if the rest of the family wants more, they can just add more to their meal in their own bowl. That's how we do it around here. That way, low sodium for Lola, and everybody else can have it how they want. Lola's meal gets her soft steamed vegetables and the soup. The rest of the family gets the soup, Thai basil, scallions, the dried mushrooms from the broth, I just chopped them up, the crispy air fried veggies, and then I want it spicy, so I'm doing some chili crisp oil. Everyone's gonna be fed, everyone's gonna be happy, their needs are gonna be met. I'm also gonna put seaweed snacks and shrimp snacks on the table, that way you can put it in your soup, they can snack on it, just a little something special, extra. It makes the meal more fun.
Thank you.
So these mango pops were the reason I had to stop at the Asian market. My daughter really wanted them. They are actually pretty cool though. They have a white chocolate, I think, outside, and then a mango ice cream inside. They're a pop that goes on a stick, but I actually just cut off a piece for Lola, cut it into smaller pieces, and then I served it with her frozen yogurt, which is her favorite, and then her dehydrated fruit, which was a really fun dessert for her.
Good morning. Today is voting day, so my partner went off to vote before work. Lola's still in bed, and my kid doesn't have school, so she's sleeping too. So I'm just gonna get breakfast over and done with now, at least most of it. That way it can just be reheated very easily when everybody's ready to eat and I can go work and move on with my morning. So for the family, breakfast burritos. Fast and easy, I'll show you how to make those. And then Lola actually eats pretty much the same breakfast every single morning. She actually used to be a nutritionist, so she's hyper-focused on nutrient-dense food. Plus, this is really easy for her to eat. She actually made it up herself. She calls it her casserole. If you've seen my other videos, you've probably seen it before. I won't take too long on it, but I'll show it just in case you haven't seen it. So, let's do it. For a poached egg, you get a couple inches of water. Turn on the heat, medium-high. Splash of vinegar. This actually makes the egg form nicely into a ball. Science. Marinated shishito peppers. Reheating the potatoes. Reheating the egg cups sliced in half. As soon as the water starts to bubble, just give it a little swirl, a little whirlpool. Gently drop it in the center. Turn off the heat and then cover it, let it sit for 4 minutes. As things are heated up, just pull them off the grill so they don't get overcooked. And this is when it's obvious I'm not a professional chef. I need 2 spatulas. And then you have this perfect little ball egg. I'm just gonna put it to the side because I'm not totally constructing this yet since she's still sleeping. For a quick sauce, I'm gonna use the cashew cream that I made yesterday. This is about 2 tablespoons, half a teaspoon of soy sauce, half a teaspoon of sriracha, and just a 1/4 teaspoon of toasted sesame oil. This is just gonna give the wrap a nice little Asian flavor. So that's what we're going for this morning. Okay, time to construct. So our sauce, egg, shishito peppers, potatoes, scallions, and then we're gonna do some kimchi. Good probiotic and delicious. Even my daughter loves kimchi. I made these last week. These are actually just marinated daikon radishes. Just soy, mirin, rice vinegar, toasted sesame oil, a lot of your usual suspects. Okay, wrap it up. One of my first jobs in the food industry. I was never a chef, but I did roll wraps really well. I was a mean wrap roller. So these guys are gonna hang out and wait until my partner gets back from voting and my daughter wakes up. And I'm hungry, so I just threw this back on the grill. We got up early, did a Pilates video, so I would like to just eat and move on with my day. And then I'm just gonna crisp up the edges. And then I'm gonna halfway construct Lola's meal, and then I can just heat it up when she gets up. So Lola gets the same thing, like I said, every single morning. We already did the egg. I always make steel cut oats in large batches. Lola eats it every morning, a serving of it, and then the rest of the family also eats it throughout the week sometimes as well. Really good for you, really delicious. Anyways, I just cut off a piece, and unlike regular oats, you can't do this with like regular oatmeal. It would get funky, I would think. At least I would think so. But steel cut oats works really well for this. So I just cut off a nice little section, about a serving, and then just mash it up a little bit. It looks funky now, but trust me, once you put in the milk and heat it up, it goes right back to normal. And then oat milk. You can use any milk you want for this. We just like oat milk. And then I get actually the full fat one for Lola because she needs more calories. She's been a lot more active lately. We got her into better shape since she moved in. She actually could only do 3 stairs when she originally moved in. And now she can do 3 flights of stairs. She takes like 1/4 mile walks. With us watching her, of course. and it's great. So when she wakes up, I'm going to heat this up in the microwave, and then I'm gonna add an egg on top. And then I'm gonna finish it off with a scoop of Greek yogurt. I got strawberry for the week, and then some fresh fruit. Today we're gonna go with bananas, and then the egg goes on it. I would personally put the egg on the side if it was me, but she loves it and it makes her happy. So that's what she gets. So there's the burrito, and then I remembered I roasted that grapefruit juice. I put that in a glass with some ice and 2 teaspoons of the rosemary syrup I made. Super happy I took a little extra time to make that because it was delicious. Now it's lunchtime. I'm gonna make that cauliflower soup that I wanted to make with the roasted purple cauliflower. Plot twist, I think I threw out my garlic though, that I had roasted in cleanup. I don't know what happened to it. Very absent-minded. There's just too much going on all the time. So wherever that went, I can't find it. So we're gonna change it slightly, but if you do make this recipe, I do recommend using that bulb of garlic. We made it for a reason, but I'm just gonna improvise since I don't have it. Instead, I'm gonna use some fresh garlic, cut it up, saute it in the beginning, and we'll go from there. 4 cups of broth, the cauliflower, and the shallots. Instead of using cream to thicken the soup, I'm just gonna use a little bit of no salt cottage cheese. This is gonna add some protein to the soup as well. It'll make it creamier, so not a bad idea to throw in. I also could have thrown in some of the cashew cream that I made, but I'm just gonna play with this instead. 1/4 cup cottage cheese, package of no salt chicken seasoning, a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and blend. So when I first blended the soup, the color was kind of ugly because of the purple cabbage. I guess not my best idea, but I saved it. I just used the purple cabbage that I had roasted earlier this week. I put about 1/4 cup in, blended it really well, and it made it prettier. Saved. Since I failed and lost the roasted garlic, I'm just gonna chop up some garlic, saute it with butter, and then add the soup. Problem solved. We are living and learning. 2 tablespoons of butter. Just for a minute or 2, don't burn the garlic. I don't want to ruin it twice. Stir, and then I'm gonna allow it to cook for about 10 minutes. While the soup was cooking, I just air fried up some Brussels sprouts. These were already seasoned with olive oil and lemon, so all I do is just toss it on the tray, toss it in the air fryer. I figured we wanted something a little bit more than soup, so I threw some tortillas on the flat top. I put a little bit of cheese on there, the white beans, Italian seasoning, and I'm just gonna serve half of those per person, and then the 4th half will be for my daughter's lunch tomorrow. Just thinking ahead, work smarter, not harder. Lola's meal gets soft steamed vegetables that I heated up in the microwave, plus chickpeas and white beans. I heated those up in the microwave and then topped it off with the cauliflower soup. And then I served it with an egg cup that I had made earlier in the week for some extra protein, since the quesadilla wouldn't work for Lola. I topped the rest of the family's soup off with air-fried Brussels sprouts, some of those crunchies that I made for the week, the crispy chickpeas, and a little bit of smoked salt because the sodium was very low in this and we just wanted a little bit of extra flavor. And then I served it alongside the little quesadilla. Admittedly, the color was a little bit funky. I don't think I would use purple cauliflower again, but it worked and it was delicious. Good evening, it's dinner time. It's been a very busy day, so I'm gonna make dinner very fast, very easy as usual. We're just gonna do a poached fish using the tomato sauce. We make a version of this often. Everyone really loves it. And it's very easy for me to make. Because it's very soft and I make it low sodium, we get pretty much the same meal as Lola, just a tiny bit of a difference. So that makes it very easy for me and everybody loves it. I'm gonna combine the tomato sauce and the broth. Since those have already been cooked at the beginning of the week, they don't need any time to really develop flavor. I'm also gonna add some capers to it. Those do have a bit of salt in it. I'm okay with that because it's gonna be so low sodium with everything else, but omit if you would like to. And then I'm gonna add some more flavor with garlic powder, onion powder, smoked paprika, and cumin. We're gonna add some white beans to it because it's extra protein and beans are great for you. There's already a little white wine in the sauce, but I am gonna add a little bit more white wine as well. Flavor. And then I'm just gonna finish it off with a little butter. That makes it creamier, velvety, delicious. And then I'm gonna poach the fish that we got for the week. That's been thawing out in the fridge for today, so it's good to go. Serve it over the brown rice that we already made. Lola is gonna get her soft steamed vegetables with it, and then the rest of the family is gonna get air fried shishito peppers. We just love them, they're easy, so we're going for it. Plot twist, shishito peppers went on the grill. And then I'm gonna top it off with an avocado. And a sprinkle of parm.
Good morning. Today we are making French toast with a cinnamon raisin bread that I found at the store, and we're using blackberries and the rosemary simple syrup that I made. The batter for the French toast is just your usual suspects: milk, vanilla, egg, flour, but then I did add a tablespoon of the rosemary simple syrup. I put some butter on the flat top, and then I dipped my bread in the batter. Then I combined about 2 cups of blackberries with 1/4 cup of the rosemary simple syrup and let that cook down. I quickly reheated the soup and packed my daughter's lunch, and then breakfast was ready to serve. For lunch that day, we went with a soup for Lola and then a salad for my partner and I. For the soup, I started with broth. I added some frozen peas because we ran out of the roasted vegetables. I added roasted sweet potatoes, some brown rice, and some peanut sauce, but not too much because it is a little salty. I added a tiny bit of fish sauce for a little bit of extra flavor, and some mirin. And I chopped up some tofu and put that in there too. For the salad, I reheated the sweet potatoes, the tofu, and some rice in the air fryer. While that was cooking, I combined kale, cabbage, and the peanut dressing in a bowl. When my other ingredients were warmed up, I added that as well and mixed it in. I also added a little bit of toasted sesame oil and crispy chili oil. When the peas were soft enough for Lola to chew, the soup was ready. And I finished it off with some toasted sesame oil for extra flavor. And then I served it with a little egg cup for her. I finished off our salad with a chopped up egg cup, some of those crunchies, and a little extra peanut dressing.
We all really enjoy eating a pretty healthy diet. We love our veggies, we love our healthy food, but we all really love dessert. Lola loves her dessert. She wants it after lunch and dinner, and the rest of the family loves it as well. My partner and I, because we're often sleep deprived, we do tend to crave extra sugar. It just happens when you're sleep deprived, and we're sleep deprived because of the situation. So instead of binge eating candy, I do try to make sure we always have at least somewhat healthy sweeter options: fruits, dates, a good quality dark chocolate, and then I also like to make desserts from scratch. So I've been working on baked goods that have extra fiber, protein, nutrients in them. Here's how I make a cheesecake using cottage cheese, yogurt. The crust is gonna be oats, dates, prunes, lots of fiber, and just a little bit of sugar. And then we top it off with some fresh fruit. It's very satisfying. Feels like a dessert, but a healthier version of one. I start by combining oats, prunes, dates, vanilla, and coconut oil. I blend that in a food processor. That's gonna be the crust. I lay that out as evenly as possible in my pan, and I did grease my pan with a little bit of coconut oil so it wouldn't stick. Then I clean up my food processor and I combine no salt added cottage cheese, Greek yogurt. I used strawberry, but it doesn't really matter. Egg, vanilla, cornstarch, lemon juice,
and a little bit of brown sugar. There's only a 1/4 cup of sugar in this whole cheesecake. And then I blend that up until it's very, very smooth. Put it in a preheated oven, bake at 350 degrees for about 40 minutes or until it's done in the center. And that's it. You have a beautiful, protein-rich, fiber-rich, healthy cheesecake. The whole family loved it. It was soft enough for Lola to chew. We just served it with some fruit. It was good.
My daughter and I just got home from a belated birthday dinner with my dad. He's 70. Happy birthday to him. So we've already eaten. I did get takeout for my partner, so she's already taken care of as well. And then the only person I have to make dinner for tonight is gonna be Lola. We went out to an Indian restaurant and their food is very spicy there, so I knew she would be happier with a homemade meal. Luckily, since I already prepped, it's only gonna take me about 5 minutes to throw together. Frozen peas, because we ate up all the roasted veggies, chicken, the sauce, and pasta. A little bit of broth to cook the frozen peas in, and thin out the sauce a little bit, which she likes. Add the broth, add the peas, add the sauce, you can season it more with some Italian seasoning, poultry seasoning, if you'd like. I added a little bit of olive oil for some extra fat. I bring it to a boil, down to a simmer. Once the peas are soft enough, I add the chicken just to heat up. And then I pour it over the pasta, which brings everything to the perfect temperature. Here's how I make an adult beverage using the roasted grapefruit juice. Bourbon, 2 ounces, or gin or vodka, 1/2 ounce of elderflower, 1 ounce of the rosemary simple, and the roasted grapefruit. I'm doing 3 ounces. Perfect. Fast, easy breakfast.
Today we're making a breakfast burrito, but different from the other day. I grate some cheese while I'm reheating the other ingredients on the flat top. The egg cups cut in half, sweet potato, shishito peppers, and I add some avocado. I use the cashew cream that I made and I add some spices to it. Smoked paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, and cumin. Then I roll that baby up, put it back on the flat top to crisp up, and breakfast is served.
And finish it off with some hot sauce. Breakfast burritos are awesome. That only took me about 10 minutes to make, but you can even make them ahead of time when you're ingredient prepping, when all of your stuff is out anyways. Just roll them up, pop them in the fridge, or you can even pop them in the freezer. Just reheat them on the mornings. Microwave, toaster, oven, good to go. And Lola, of course, is just gonna have her casserole. Time for another lunch. I'm gonna make Lola a soup, of course, because she likes everything brothy. And then I'm gonna make a pasta salad, pasta, noodles, whatever you wanna call it, for my partner and I. It's Thursday, so at this point, I'm just using up ingredients, getting rid of things, getting a little creative. Yes, I know this dish would be better with rice noodles or soba noodles, but I just don't want this pasta to go to waste, so I'm just gonna improvise with that. I have things like a little bit of the peanut dressing left. I'm gonna throw that in there with some other flavor. I did throw a lot of the chicken in the freezer because I knew it would take a while to get through. I did pull some of it out for us. That's what I do, especially with meat. I just don't want it to go bad. So I will toss it in the freezer at the beginning of the week and slowly pull it out as I need things throughout the week so I know they're not going bad. My partner and I are gonna get tofu for our protein. I'm gonna give Lola this chicken. We're gonna do some shishito peppers, still working on those babies, and they're super flavorful because they've been marinating all week. Pasta, like I said, would be better with rice noodles, soba noodles, but here we are. I'm gonna use that roasted cabbage, some broth for Lola, and then flavor, garlic, ginger. I'm gonna get out some scallions, also Thai basil. I'll probably throw the peanut sauce in, and then a lot of your usual suspects for more of an Asian flavor: low sodium soy sauce, fish sauce, toasted sesame oil, rice vinegar, chili crisp, and mirin. Looks like a lot of ingredients, but it takes 2 seconds to just toss everything in. And if you normally cook like this, that's just like the lineup of flavors you typically use. So I just always have them on hand, and it just develops a ton of flavor. and makes cooking at home a lot more delicious and a lot more fun.
Putting in the broth, about a cup, cup and a half. Garlic, ginger, scallion to build flavor, seaweed and dried mushroom to build flavor. Again, looks like a lot, but I'm not using a lot of sodium, so I just want to make it special for her.
I just realized Lola's meal does not have a vegetable, so I'm going to slice up this carrot, just toss it in the soup to cook and soften.
Thai basil for extra flavor. For the pasta for my partner and I, sesame oil, the bottom part of the scallions, and then garlic. Ginger, a little bit of broth, shishito peppers, about a tablespoon of the peanut sauce is left, so that's going in there. Tablespoon of mirin, half a teaspoon soy sauce, half a teaspoon fish sauce, teaspoon of rice vinegar, tofu, just to reheat it, and pasta. Just to reheat it. Finishing it off with a 1/4 teaspoon of toasted sesame oil, spicy chili crisp to taste, a teaspoon of mirin, about a 1/4 teaspoon of fish sauce, just a little flavor but not too much sodium, adjust as needed. Taking out all the flavor building ingredients, checking the carrots. Now that the carrots are soft enough, I'm just gonna add the pasta. And again, this is protein pasta. The chicken cut up super small and turn off the heat. Finishing it off with about a 1/4 teaspoon of toasted sesame oil to make sure the carrots cook down really soft without losing all of my broth. I added about a cup of water while they're cooking. And I finished off our meal with some avocado for some extra healthy fat that was left over from breakfast. We get our pasta. I finish it off with Thai basil and scallions, some black sesame seeds, and then our crunchies. All of that might have not been necessary, but I like to be extra about my food.